this is where the final piece of the puzzle sort of fits in, because I never really paid much attention to this before until noticing the action figures. And again, people have been mentioning this to us now, but as long as Disney has been involved with this production, so this is the best part of 3 years, we've been hearing speculation about this. According to, again, sources, dependable sources, next to impeccable hit rates from the people who speak to us here at Type 40, according to them, the conclusion of the Disney deal, Disney will retain their rights to not just the 2 series that have been made with them to stream them globally, but they also retain the rights to the characters of the 15th Doctor and indeed the 14th Doctor.
They can have them.
yeah.
They can have them. They can have them and add them to their
Shooty?
Star Wars collection of Rey and all them. They can just keep that. I'm quite.
That's really good news. That's really good news.
That doesn't mean that Disney will continue to stream those shows. They don't stream lots of shows that they've made. For example, with Lucasfilm, they completely memory hold the Willow show. They could do that with this. Yeah. But should they choose to,
no holes with
according to our sources, they will hold the rights to stream those, and they will retain rights to the characters, specifically of the 14th and the 15th Doctors, which again, it's speculated that is why we get them differentiated so much in associated media and press, because technically, legally, allegedly, they are, as intellectual properties, different characters.
Good.
So basically, they're walled off. They're walled off from the rest of the franchise. Then, if like BBC brings it back or does anything, whatever, these 2 characters are basically walled off.
Oh, that's great news.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The conclusion. I mean, that's a distinct possibility, isn't it? I mean, apparently key characters that have been originated as part of the production, the co-production, are also included. So people like Conrad, remember Conrad, the far right podcaster, Maestro, the whatever that person was, I don't know. Maurice Gibbons, do you remember him riding around on his Segway? And maybe even, I don't know this for certain, but maybe even Ruby Sunday. I don't know. I haven't got any further information about this, but I've been told by people I know connected with licensing that this is the reason why he's always the 15th Doctor, because Disney will retain the rights to all of the material and characters created as part of the co-production, according to our sources. Whereas, obviously, you've got characters like Sutek, for example. Where is he? Sutek, Kate Stewart, people like that, characters like that. Russell's own Donna Noble. Those characters won't be included because they were created as part of earlier productions, and the rights would be owned by each writer, by Russell or by Chris Chibnall. So that would be the case, just as normal.
Just because Jodie showed up in that last episode doesn't mean that she's part of Disney now.
Right.
No, she was just.
We can't lose her.
So that also means they can't do anything with Billy, because Shooty, we generated technically, if you were to watch the screen, into her.
That's the Billy Piper thing. It's another question entirely. That was literally, as I think I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. Again, everybody that's spoken to us about this, and some are more informed than others, as every account that we've got, that was literally thrown together one afternoon. Billy Piper is not contracted for so much as a single episode from this moment onward. It was all done, according to our sources, on a kind of, it's mates rates. We'll do this as a favor one afternoon to get a mate out of a bind, which I said half joking at the time when we did the reaction show, but apparently that is actually the truth, according to the people that have been speaking to us. I mean, this obviously demarks those incarnations as separate characters, and therefore the property of Disney. That means that they wouldn't be allowed to reappear should Amazon take it. I don't know how it would work with the BBC, but if they enter into another co-production deal, which apparently that was the initial hope, they were shopping it round, then that couldn't happen. I mean, you could say this is going to work out. If you're a fan of David Tennant, this is going to work out fine. He's got 2 other incarnations of the character he can play at any time. There's going to be no shortage of David Tennant. But it would mean that any return to the character of the Doctor from Ncuti Gatwa, it would mean that is, well, cost prohibitive, next to impossible. I would argue, and the comparison I would look to, the one that we've been living with for quite a long time now, is how Universal still owns Dr. Grace Holloway, which has prevented Daphne Ashbrook from playing that character again, either on television or even in the audio dramas. Again, I don't know how those things work precisely, but as I understand it, that's why. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't negotiated some sort of one-off thing, because who else is going to want to use Dr. Grace Holloway realistically? But seemingly, she hasn't played it for 30 years, so there must be some truth to it.
Yeah, but Dan, it does make sense, because you remember in the old days when you used to work for a big company and you were creative. Say you were working for some graphics company, and you would create a house or something like that under the banner of that company. Anything you create within that company, they would own. That was always the thing, especially when I worked. It makes
perfect sense.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me that that company owns Daphne. Makes complete sense to me. And the same thing with Disney as well. Thank God Disney has Ncuti. They can keep him, for God's sakes. You know what I mean?
I've worked extensively in publishing, and I know you have as well, Gary. And this is pretty standard. When I look at it objectively, it's just when you're that close to Doctor Who and you can't see it, you think, of course it wouldn't. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I know. I'm curious. Does this affect at all the CBeebies show?
I haven't got any.
So they couldn't use
any information about that.
They couldn't use the 14th and 15th Doctors, right, for any pitch to CBeebies, right, because they're walled off now.
I couldn't. I have no idea. I mean, as I understand it, that production is literally completely different. I mean, for all I know, somebody affiliated with Disney, for example, the Bluey producers, they may have pitched for it. For all I know, I have not heard a single whisper from anywhere, literally anywhere, about that show yet.
So, and this is going to be a weird question, but it popped into my mind, and we all have weird questions. So, if Disney owns the IP to the 14th Doctor now, how does that mean that any reruns of Jodie's finale have to chop off where she regenerates into him if they own the IP of that character?
I don't think.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't think that's the case. I think that they can allow that because that was the branch between them both. So that they probably would allow that, definitely.
Because that episode was produced in house, I don't think it would.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Ian's right.
Exactly.
It wouldn't.
And here's another question, Dan. I know they come out a lot less regular than they used to, but I think later on, like early next year, Titan is still publishing occasional 15th Doctor comics. Does that stop too? Because now Disney, does that mean they have to negotiate the IP with Disney? That's interesting. Okay.
I have no idea how that works.
Well,
because
that would be interesting too.
Titan had Titan Comics, Matt. It's a British publisher. They had an initial deal to make Doctor Who comics. And I know that was extended a few years ago, but it is up for renewal soon. So I think that would have probably had particular criteria with BBC licensing that would be, but for example, their option, their license is completely different to the license that Panini has to run their comic strip within Doctor Who magazine, X amount of pages. So it's like the whole thing. It's like the issue of carriage, where something offering something for download, for example, to download and keep, is a different prospect to offering something up to stream, where somebody could potentially stream a film and watch it every day of the week if they want to do it. Like Charlotte watching Wicked 3-4 times a week, don't you? So
a week, a day.
No, but I tell you what,
she needs help.
It's my happy place.
She needs God.
She needs. But no, it's crazy then that we could be in a situation, if your information's right, that a whole incarnation that was on screen that had like the official like the Doctor Ncuti Gatwa, all of that potentially is basically a no-go zone. He's like a dead end Doctor.
And
like,
two of them.
And did the partners know that when they entered into the arrangement? This is something that we'll probably never know.
Yeah.
Did they know that when they entered into the arrangement?
Probably.
Who can say? Maybe it could have been some sort of licensing deal for all I know. But all I have is just this sort of blocks this information. But it has made me wonder: could this explain too why, despite the fact, because this niggled me a little. Despite the fact there were 2 incarnations of the Rani in the season 2 finale, could this explain why Anita Dobson's character retained the name Mrs. Flood throughout the finale, as the rights for Mrs. Flood could be Disney owned, whereas the rights for the Rani would be still with the estate of Pip and Jane Baker. Again, this is just me.
I think you're absolutely right, Dan. I think you're absolutely right, because obviously they couldn't just have her as the Rani, because then it'd be a conflict. So they had to do this stupid split in 2 crap. So yeah, Mrs. Flood belongs to Disney, and the Rani still belongs to the BBC. That makes sense to me.
Like the Rani's a good example, because for years and years the fans had no idea about the copyright situation with that character. During the new run, it was like this. It was always brought up. Oh, what if they're the Rani? Why haven't you done the Rani? And the rights were sort of this issue that we didn't know exactly where they were and what they could do with them. So it does. This show has had a history of actually copyright and who owns what and all of these things, sort of creating these massive issues that we're just, as fans, we don't know the full story. And that's the vibe I'm getting. We're never going to know the full story with all this.
Don't really want to know, tell you the truth.
Well, but the thing is, though, like I know,
onto the show.
I know that that Pip and Jane Baker owned the rights to the Rani, and it was very much like it's a very different thing too with the Daleks, So, because that was co-owned.
Is Ncuti the only Doctor that never took the Daleks on?
Yes.
Is he the only? Fair, great.
McGann.
It's getting better and better.
McGann didn't either.
Well, in the beginning, just a little bit. In the beginning, exterminate just a tiny bit. At least it's there. You know what I mean?
So basically, they're going to take the whole RTD2 era, box it up like the Ark of the Covenant, and put it in a warehouse somewhere. Never to be found, basically.
Yes, that's what they should do with it.
Obviously, things can change, can't they? We have been speaking about the imminent, expected announcement of the departure again of showrunner Russell T Davies. If Doctor Who does go back into production, how and where, and who could pick it up? That's so far in the distance now. It's almost certainly going to be at the discretion of whoever the person is
BBC,
that does take the reins. Even if that person is the person that we've been hearing for a long time, it might be them, it might be somebody else. The passage of time here could be quite a long time. That, I suspect, will be largely on them, and anything concerning Billy Piper's involvement from earlier in the year. I don't think we're likely to get. Look, if I were them, I wouldn't even go back to it. I would just leave it and power away from it as much as possible. But according to sources, speaking to Type 40, Billy Piper is not under contract currently. In light of the information that we've received in the last couple of weeks from multiple independent sources of people that we trust, that Russell's season 3 scripts would survive any transition period that could come in the next few years, which obviously that would also push any production period along as well, starting from literally the ground up. So we're in a situation once again where anything could happen.
Does
Is it
Disney
gonna
own
come
those
back?
scripts?
Russell would own anything that he'd written, I would imagine. The BBC have every intention of continuing this somehow, somewhere, with someone. I wouldn't even say this is Doctor number 18 or 22, or I'd just say that's the Doctor over there. You can tell it's the Doctor because he behaves like the Doctor, he looks like the Doctor, he says doctorish things, and he's going off and he's having doctorish adventures, and that's how people will realise that they're watching Doctor Who again, Charlotte. I think it's that simple. But what do I know?
And I think, especially if possibly a new production team or a new showrunner could pick this up in the future, they're not going to want to deal with the baggage. They're not going to want to have to explain everything. They'll just want to say, here's our actor, here's the Doctor, here's a TARDIS, here's a companion. That's all they need to do.
I kind of disagree with you, because basically if you don't wipe the slate of the shit that came, then it'll always be there. And people will all argue about it being part of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
That's
I agree with Ian 100%. And what I was going to say was that people are now, the issue is that fans, even like Charlotte, not saying that you, Charlotte, you're going to agree with me, but they're conditioned now to have a number with their doctors.
Yeah.
And they will go ballistic, and that'll be their constant questioning. It was the same with Eccleston. People wanted to know what number he was.
I mean, it was only a minority of people, but because Doctor Who was so low profile then, and very few people were aware of that. But the ones that were kind of needed to know. And I know we're all on the spectrum somewhere. I am sympathetic. And family members, I've got family members who are on the spectrum. But it doesn't help the franchise. Somebody said quite recently how Doctor Who has got a nostalgia problem, and I can't quite remember who it was, but they couldn't. They're absolutely and totally right. Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have the full picture, but I think we have enough. Yeah, particularly between us. You know, we're all adults. Most people watching, I would hope, are adults. This is aimed at adults. So people who've lived and worked in various sectors think, well, does that have the ring of truth? And then, of course, as geeks, Gary, who followed this show and other shows and movies, we pick up on certain things, don't we, on the way that things work. You think, okay, yeah, I remember that. That's how it worked with that. And so when people do set up things like the Whoniverse, I do sometimes think, and I was fine with them attempting this. I think it's perfectly viable. But I do think as fans that we were probably best placed to identify any pitfalls with that before the people who are actually working on it. And you could say that that's the virtue of being a geek. We get too much into these things. But there's a lot to be said, I think, for listening to your audience and maybe having some sort of focus group. I don't know who'd be on it, but
all of us.
Me. What was the last count ratings wise on the last Doctor Who? Was it low? Was it very low?
It did go very, very, very low indeed, Ian.
Wow.
That's the overnight figure there and the consolidated figure for the week after the fact. There are several other figures, other metrics now that Barb harvests, and as I understand it, they have it roll on for as long as 6 months to a year. But I'm not interested in any of those figures. To me, these are all you need to see to, just as you said, Ian, to recognize a failure when you see one.
Yeah, it's a huge failure, isn't it? It's a shame, really, because they had the chance to give us real Doctor Who and they didn't. You know, so there you go.
So Dan, do you think that maybe when Russell's cleaning out his office and goes, that we'll eventually discover the AAI figures for this season, like at the bottom of his drawer, because those are still missing.
Don't forget the 28-day wait as well.
I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought there could be somewhere. I think he's a bit of a minimalist, so maybe he's got them stuffed up his jumper.
I really hope that I live long enough to read the definitive behind-the-scenes book about this era.
You're not going to get it.
What's your final thought on this, Charlotte, for the time being at least?
I think if this news would have come out a couple of weeks after season 2 aired, that finale, we'd probably all be a lot more emotional, maybe angry, maybe a bit irate, because we were still coming off that episode and what that episode did and how much damage it did. But now we've had that sort of period to sort of simmer and think and process a lot of that stuff with Russell and Shooty, and how, like you said, in the span, it felt like pretty much the first series going out, a lot of hope had gone, a lot of excitement had gone, and it was pretty much people who were sort of die-hard fans left that were still watching. It didn't catch the general audience at all. Shooty didn't make himself this big name. So it was sort of just put out that second season almost like, oh, we've got it, we might as well put it out. Yeah. It had that feeling off the BBC, definitely, to me. So it's in that way, it's sad that an era that was in some ways meant to start the show again and get it going again has basically fizzled out to nothing. And we're just sort of left now with this silence and this
thank God,
this hiatus. And I just hope that whenever it comes back, whatever form it comes back, that the lessons are learnt. But that's a really big hope right now. I'll happily say that. And it's this idea of how much did the BBC want to actually swallow a bit of pride and a bit of ego and actually make the right decisions? We will see.
Type 40 has been told by multiple independent, reliable sources Russell T. Davies is indeed set to depart that showrunner role following the collapse of the original deal with Disney Plus, and compounded by their treatment of his spin-off series, which he is immensely proud of, The War Between the Land and the Sea, that hasn't even been screened yet. More news and more speculation, of course, when we hear it. Let us know more of your thoughts there in the comments section on YouTube and Rumble, and get in touch with us wherever you find us, wherever you can see us. But for the most part, I think people are more than willing, more than happy to turn the page, even if there is another blank one waiting for us all, sadly, on the other side.